guys, Achilles here, and we are going to be doing a tank review here, real quick tank review. And as you can see, we are on the glorious Xbox One here, and all of the glorious tank models they've given us, and all in 4K resolution, just absolutely amazing. Unfortunately for you guys, you only get to get the 1080p effect. You don't really get to get the full HD immersion that Wargaming has given us. Everything just looks absolutely fantastic. And we're going to be doing a quick tank review here on one of the new 3 tanks that they've given out in the Founders Packs. This is one of the rarest tanks in the history of World of Tanks, the MTLS-1G14. And this is a Tier 3 American light tank, which you actually cannot obtain on the PC version. There is not one actual player account that has this tank. It is only accessible for play on press accounts or accounts. So, the fact that Wargaming, the Xbox Wargaming was willing to, release this tank and give it to us, it's just really cool. I mean, they've done a really good job in terms of, keeping the premium tank stuff interesting. They released the Mutant and the T-34-88 earlier this year, or earlier, a couple months ago. So, they're doing a really good job with stuff like this, keeping it fresh. So, this is the MTLS, and I feel like this is one of the strongest tier 3s in the game, if not the strongest, and hopefully I'm going to show you guys why. Take a look at the armor profile real quick, and you've got 38 millimeters on the front of the turret, front of the hull, and then 25 on the side of the hull, and 25 on the rear on the side of the hull and the turret, and for the back. So, you don't really have a ton of armor here, but it's not non-existent. This armor really isn't super reliable. You're not really going to be bouncing too much unless there's tier 2s with super low pen guns or tier 3s with super low pen guns and you're angled. You may sometimes get that mercy bounce or that, really weird angle or that, just that super weird bounce. But, it's not reliable. And the armor is definitely not this thing's strong suit in the first place. Let's take a gander at the modules here. And we get a 240 horsepower engine, which is not too bad. You're not going to be going too fast with this thing, but you're not going to be super slow. You're going to be cruising, like 35, 40, somewhere around there. It's not super fast. So we'll do the gun last. You got 40 degrees track traverse, which is pretty good. And then just went over the turret armor, and traverse speed on the turret's really good. And then pretty standard view range for tier 3. So the bread and butter of this tank, the 44 caliber automatic cannon. And as you may have noticed when looking at this tank, it actually has 2 guns. And yes, if you may be asking yourself, do both of those guns fire at the same time? Yes, they do. And what you're getting with this gun is when there's 5 bursts in one magazine, and in one burst both guns shoot. So you've got 40 damage with one shot, and since you've got 2 shots in one burst, you've got 80 damage in one burst. And then since there's 5 bursts in one magazine, that's 5 times 80. So you're going to be pumping out 400 potential damage with one magazine from this tank. That's enough damage to kill every single tier 3 in the game with one magazine. That is just absolutely absurd. And this is why I feel that this tank is slightly overpowered, and I feel that it's extremely good when actually battling other tier 3s in close quarters, in quotations there, in close quarters. As you can see, the accuracy is not the best at .47. This tank actually does have some issues shooting people at a distance. And then you got a pretty nice aim time there, but the aim time's a little bit deceptive just because of how high the dispersion is when you're on the move. If you're going really fast and you try to stop and aim at someone, it's going to take a little bit longer than that just because the dispersion is so high. And I also would like to highlight how low the penetration is on this gun. Penetration is definitely not a strong suit. 45 penetration is pretty much good enough for all the tier 3s and most of the tier 2s. There's going to be a couple that have, some weird frontal armor that's going to be tough to penetrate, but, like Panzer 2Js and stuff like that. But, you've got premium rounds for that. But, if you're in a tier 4 or 5 game, this tank's really going to struggle unless you have the rears of the other tanks. Even then, 61 penetration with your premium rounds still isn't much. So, this gun is really, really, really lethal if you can penetrate. And, if you're top tier in tier 3, you're not really going to be having any issues with that, and you're going to just be ripping people to shreds. So, let's go over the equipment fit real quick. And, this is tier 3. I'm not really going to be, grinding the shit out of this tank. This is going to be one of those tanks that I just kind of play for fun. If, I'm getting pissed off with high tiers, I just want to have a, little rinky-dink game and, go club some seals. Because this thing is really good at doing that, and you're going to see that in the gameplay I have for you guys. So equipment fit, if I had to run full equipment on this thing, I would probably run vents, gun lane drive, and then probably optics, but you know, it's tier 3. I'm never going to frickin' put full equipment on this thing. Vents is good enough for me. And then on consumables, you're going to see this tank has a ton of ammo. I would also like to note how expensive the premium rounds are, since you do have 5 bursts in the magazine, and there's 2 shots in each burst. That's 10 shots. That's 800 silver per shot, and then 10 times 800, that's 8,000 silver for 1 magazine of APCR. So this making money when shooting gold is not really an option in this thing. You know, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed to lose money unless you hit your shots and you're shooting at maybe, you know, higher tier targets. You know, I never really use the APCR ammunition unless I'm going up against higher tier targets. I find that the AP ammunition is sufficient when you're top tier and shooting at lower tier stuff. So, you know, nothing surprising here. Same thing with consumables, you know, pretty standard stuff. And, you know, that's pretty much all I have for the garage view, and I think we're going to cut to the gameplay. I hope you guys are,
Alright guys, so here is the gameplay that I have for you. It's a really quick game, only 2 minutes. And you're going to see here that, you know, another issue, I thought that they would fix the, you know, loading in late problems, but, you know, it's still happening. And I can't figure out how to defrag, but, you know, it's not that big of a deal. And you saw there, I just dumped a random mag just to see how quick you could dump the magazine. It's really quick. And I kind of wanted to explain myself for the shitty mic situation. So apparently, how I usually record my gameplays, I record it in my recording software in the Elgato software, and then I transfer it into, like, you know, the software that I use to actually make the YouTube video. And for some reason, it doesn't pick up my voice. So it's pretty much just me spinning around the tank looking at random things. And I kind of had to, you know, do some bootleg stuff to get that to record, and that's why it sounded so terrible. But I'll try to figure it out for the next video. But you saw there, my first mag there was pretty brutal. And then you can see here, I'm clipping this locust, and you could just see his health just dissipate so quickly. You know, as I talked about in the garage review, the damage on this gun and the just sheer output of this gun is just absolutely amazing. And you're going to see here, the MTLS actually does have quite a bit of gun depression. And, you know, you're going to see it. This is, like, the perfect map for it, too. You know, Y Park. This is probably one of my favorite maps just because you have to pay so much attention to detail. And you can see me just absolutely melting this T1E6X here. You know, I didn't get the kill just because of shitty aim and stuff like that. But, you know, this is just a super quick game. And the damage adds up really fast if you end up penning all of your shots. And you're going to see here, you can see the reload. It's pretty long at tier 3. Just because, you know, everybody else has such a quick reload. You know, 13 seconds doesn't seem like much. And you can see here the armor doesn't really hold up very much. And, you know, I kind of biffed my shots there. I probably should have aimed instead of auto-aiming. And he actually does end up killing me here. And you're going to see on the scoreboard, you know, I actually pulled almost 800 damage, which is really good for a tier 3 game. But that's pretty much all I have for the gameplay. And let's cut back to the garage here. Alright, so as you guys saw in that gameplay, the MTLS is a extremely deadly tank when in a close quarters situation. And you know, you saw me shoot at that locust, and his health bar just went down so fast. Had I hit all my shots, he probably would have died in probably about 2.5–3 seconds. And that's pretty damn quick. So I wasn't really lying when I said that this gun actually does melt people. And you know, I feel like that if you are interested in getting this tank, that this is probably your best and only opportunity that you're ever going to get it, just because of the rarity of this tank. And you know, it's a founders pack, so you know, the last ones they sold, you know, they sold the T23 and Panzer 5.4 again, but you know, that you caught a bunch of flack and stuff like that. So I don't think they're actually ever going to sell this again. And you know, the battalion pack actually is a really good deal, $48 for 30 days of premium, 3 tanks, and 500k silver. That's probably the best deal Wargaming's ever given us. You know, I feel like this tank is just, you know, that add-in little bonus just to make it a little bit cooler, you know, dropping on the Xbox One. And you know, it's a good crew trainer too. So you know, the MTLS in a nutshell, this thing is just absolutely ferocious, and I feel that it is 100% worth it. You know, I enjoy little rinky-dink tanks like this, so you know, I recommend it 100%. I absolutely enjoy this tank. It's so much fun. Now, I would like to tell you guys that I am going to be uploading the you know, reviews of the other 2 new premium tanks they dropped today. You know, I'm going to try to figure out my situation with the software or whatever first, and then I'll be working on those, and I'm going to try to spit those out today as well, but I can't make any promises. But I can assure you that I am working on it, and I already have the gameplays. I just got to record all the other stuff and put it all together. So pretty much that's all I have to say about the MTLS. I feel like this is a really fun tank, and then if you really want to get it, I feel like that you should, because this is a really enjoyable tank, and you should get it. So that's pretty much all for this video, and thanks you guys for watching. This has been Achilles, and I will catch you guys later.